Hi, good morning. I'm Wheels Moyer, and I'm going to be presenting my research presentation on Topeng dance. Let's get it. Okay, so an introduction to Balinese Topeng. Topeng is a traditional form of Indonesian dance in which one or more masked characters or dancers interpret traditional narratives of fabled kings or myths. Um, it originated in Bali and Java, which are two islands in Indonesia. It's also found in other regions within the country, and it started back in the 15th century. The dances originated from tribal dances, which were held in honor of ancestors, and they used masks to play the roles of messengers from God. The themes originally were centered around nature or ancestral spirits, but they've shifted now. So the basics of Topeng, it's usually performed at a Adolan festival, which is a temple anniversary celebration. It begins when many masked characters appear on the stage, even though they may not be directly connected to each other or the story. You don't necessarily know that when it starts. All of the characters are wearing masks on their face. The themes have shifted from the traditional religious, family, ancestral tones to more modern adaptations. And now the Adventures of Prince Panji is one of the most popular and well-known Topeng dances. When Hinduism arrived in Indonesia, they adapted Topeng to that as well. So the Ramayana and Mahabharata have both been adapted as Topeng dance, and they will be performed during religious festivals or seasons. So the Topeng Wali is one sort of Topeng dance. It can also be called the Topeng Pagan, and it's performed by a single actor, and it is regarded by the viewers as having profound magical and religious meaning. So the performer, to be able to perform Topeng Wali, is both a performer and actor as well as a priest. So the sole actor throughout the performance must change their masks and their movements to emulate several different characters. So it's a monodrama performance, and it can be very challenging, and it's quite the honor to be able to perform Topeng Wali for your community. Okay, so the importance of the mask. Characters of noble background will wear masks for the entirety of the performance, and that mask will cover their whole face, and it does not allow them to speak under it. But their mask will feature a very delicate chin, sharply pointed noses, and elongated eyes and a smaller mouth. All the storytelling of the Topeng performance is done by servant or gesture archetype characters, and they wear masks that only cover half of their face, so it allows for them to speak. The masks are traditionally carved out of pule wood, and they would resemble faces of Golok puppets, which were used in the Topeng Golok puppet dance, and that's how the Topeng dance performance evolved. So the acting and storytelling, as I just said, the jesters and servants do all the storytelling, and they'll tell it from their point of view. So they'll add interjections or jokes, current gossip of the community to get some laughter going. They kind of lead you throughout the story. So they might be involved as kind of minor characters, but they also narrate the action, what's going on. So the whole plays typically were performed by 4 or 5 actors, and they would play all the roles, including female parts. So like a lot of traditional forms of theater, back in the 16th century, women were not allowed to be actors, so the men would have to perform. But with the masks, that was a lot easier to do because they were already taking over a different identity. One actor can play many different roles with the use of many different masks. So some Topeng actors would be known to have over 40 masks that were just theirs, and there's a strong association with the mask, like one character, and there's a very connectedness between the actor and their own collection of masks. So So the movement of toping is very unique. The actors will enter the stage to gamelan music, which will sometimes continue to play throughout the whole performance. The movement involved in the dancing is usually pretty short and defined. The dancing can involve the mask, placing it on the face, moving it off, kind of taking role. The dancers can rotate in a circle or kind of shift around the stage. Many of the movements involve squatting or kind of what looks like to be stretching. So as you can see in these pictures here, kind of bending movements, kind of not creepy, but, just kind of shifting around the stage, throwing a leg out, just lots of sort of stretches. So first, I will demonstrate the excerpt from the story from the point of view of one of the servant storytellers, so you can see kind of what their sort of storytelling looks like. Secondly, I will portray the story as a masked actor who doesn't speak, but would represent the high-class society, and so they would be, in this case with Rapunzel, it would be Rapunzel or the witch or one of the main characters involved, whereas, the servant storyteller would just kind of be a onlooker. The only person whom Rapunzel ever saw was the Wicked Witch. Rapunzel grew up to be very beautiful, with beautiful pretty eyes, a beautiful voice, and her golden hair grew very, very long. All day when Rapunzel was alone, she would sing and weep. A pretty boring life, if you ask me. Every day, the Wicked Witch came to the tower with food. She stood at the bottom of the tower and shouted, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel would drop her long braided hair through the window. The witch then used her hair to climb as a rope to climb the tower. Ouch. One day, a handsome prince was passing by and heard her sing. He fell in love with her voice, and unknown to all, came to the tower every day to hear her sing. One day, the prince saw the witch climbing Rapunzel's hair, and the next day, the prince too called out to Rapunzel. "Let down your hair," he said. The prince climbed to the top of the tower. After that, the prince came to meet Rapunzel every night. So there you can see the little interjections of the storyteller throughout the performance. Obviously, they would be a little more exaggerated and kind of gossipy pertaining to the community, but I'm not going to name names or anything. So now I'll adapt this into the how the masked character would be performing in their movements. Just before I perform, I would like to say it's a little more challenging because this wouldn't really be a good Toping Wally performance because it's not necessarily monodrama. So adapting this as the sole actor, it can get a little dicey, but we'll see. Okay, so as you can tell, it's a hard adaptation to do. Also, you can't really understand what's going on just by the movements alone. So that's why there'd be the storyteller roles, because it's not mimicry, but the motions are emulating what's going on without directly telling the story. So you need both of the roles. But I will say, through this Toping experience, I've learned a lot. Traditionally, when I think of theater pieces, I imagine, plays or Broadway musicals, what I've grown up viewing, that have a few different characteristics or attributes. They would not be, this is very different and very traditional compared to what I've seen. But it's definitely broadened my horizons because when I first was introduced to this assignment, I obviously knew nothing about Toping. I didn't really even know how to say it, but I'm definitely more culturally aware of the different challenging types of theater, and I can appreciate, the differences in this world and how theater, even though it varies from country to country, it can be quite the unifying factor. And if I ever travel to Indonesia, I will make sure to catch a Toping performance. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great day.